Good morning and an excellent Mother's Day wish for all of you, for all mothers of the past, present, and future. For those who are new here, my name is Bill Spangle. This is Dora DeCourcy. We assist with the teaching duties here. And also for those who don't know what's coming, we'll have about 50 minutes with meditation with some instruction and a little break, and then time for question and answer afterwards. Okay, I'll move the mic up so I can whisper. For those familiar with Buddhism, especially from the Tibetan tradition, the example of the kindness of our mothers is one of the most central examples. And so there really isn't any way to not mention this on Mother's Day. I always feel a little bit inadequate to the task. Part of it is feeling that I ought to do something, have a deeper relationship than a kind of a Hallmark card relationship with the day. And so to go beyond just familiar forms, it's always challenging. To look deeply into the complexities and the depth of our relationships is always rewarding if we really open to it. And in looking into our relationship to our mothers, to our parents, to all those who have taken care of us, looking into our own relationship to that from our own side if we happen to be parents. And as I was riding along, as Dora was driving this morning, I was looking out the window and just noticing each house that we passed by and thinking about how in each house there were some people, probably a family, and in each house they were going through all the things that one does on a daily basis, all the details, all the interactions, all that's necessary for those people to survive and thrive, take care of each other. And as I just let my eyes rest on the houses as they went by, the numbers started to add up. And it sunk in on me in a certain way that it hadn't before. Just how much vitality was there. And in the details of all those lives, just as in the details of our own lives, the role of care, the role of kindness, the role of love, these things are woven in in ways that we don't recognize unless we really stop to appreciate just what it takes for us to come into this world, to be born, to survive being an infant, to be carried as we grow, to be able to learn, to eventually be able to embody these positive qualities. And one of the most profound ways that we can offer our appreciation is by recognizing our own potential to care for each other, to think deeply about the welfare of all those that we come into contact with, especially all those that we're intimately connected with. In our busyness, it's easy for our minds to, you could say, collapse down to a rather narrow view of our what's going on, what's immediately around us. But just pausing for a moment, doing something mentally, if you could just quickly do the exercise in your mind of passing by home after home and thinking about how each of those families, all the individuals, how all together we form a community with vitality. And our lives are actually far more profoundly intertwined than we think when we're just preoccupied with our own concerns. There isn't any way for us to simultaneously take care of all the practical needs of all those that we run into, all those that we're connected to. But one of the most profound things that we can do is unravel our confusion, unravel our own patterns that are not so helpful. And as we do that, then it can offer something to whoever we meet, however we meet them, whatever the interaction is. So to begin our practice, it's always good to remember our profound intention to wish for the liberation, the well-being of all. Just to extend that and recall the connections. Even if we just think about how we were sitting here together, And we're surrounded by people in their homes around us. People in coffee shops making coffee for somebody. And holding the wish that we might be a profound benefit to them all. We can also make the aspiration to unravel all our confusion. And finding the moment of rest, where the mind comes to rest in the middle of all the activity of the world. It's a place where we can begin to see our confusion and to let go of all the energy that we usually invest in sustaining that. And so in the simple practice of calm abiding, we can think, may I repay the kindness of my mother in this life. May I repay the kindness of my mothers in all previous lives. May I be an example gradually as wisdom unfolds. So we can go for refuge, holding this very open sense of our connections to others.
Oh, until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness.
We can let the mind remain open with a sense of appreciation for all our connections. And in the midst of that, let the mind come to rest. This is not making the mind stop. It's more like giving it permission to not chase. In the midst of all our experiences, we can let the mind discover the flow of the experiences connected to breathing. At times it can be hard to distinguish between the thoughts and reactions about the experience of the breath and the direct experience. But here, we turn the attention simply to the direct experience. The simple sensations, moment by moment. If the attention begins to waver or get a little murky, sharpen the focus. Just like bringing a camera back into focus. Whenever you find yourself distracted, simply begin again fresh. Vividly discovering the experience of the breath and relax into it. Stretch and let go of all effort for a moment. And return fresh.
this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
Thank you all. I have the advantage here at times like this that you're all facing me, so if I want to contemplate all beings who have been my previous mothers, I have lots of examples. So, thanks, Mom.
You're welcome, son. Thank you, Mom.
It was interesting driving along and just thinking about just in any one house, just the activity of one day, then to think of the activity of 2 days, 3. Think of generations of people and all the activity, all the things that have had to happen over moment to moment, over generations, and then to think and multiply this with more and more houses. It actually was, I was kind of overwhelmed by the time I got here. And so that was useful. It's good to contemplate things and find something that allows you to lean in deeply enough so that it actually has some kind of impact, where you see something you didn't see before. So, and if I didn't feel some obligation to come and try to think of something helpful to say, without your help, I never would have gone through that. So thank you for that. So we do have a number of different kinds of things to remind you of. There are things that we are doing, and then we also figured out that we needed to remind people of the things that we aren't doing that we said we were going to do, because you might show up for those, and then and where would we be? We wouldn't be there. But this is all kind of around the theme that Khenpo Rinpoche is coming in June, and so we had a little bit of a sense we needed to take a time out on a few things. And this included Zopa's 3 Saturday morning classes, which were going to be in May, and the Saturday, that's one. Oh, was that? Yes, that was 3 classes in May that were on immeasurable equanimity, and that is going to happen in the fall. And I was going to do 3 Saturday mornings on Introduction to Vajrayana Principles and Practices, and that's, for the time being, that's off the list. You can come and hear Khenpo Rinpoche do better than I could do so. The Death and Dying group, study group, this Tuesday at 3 to 4:30 at KCC. If you have questions about that, please just talk to Cynthia. The Death and Dying practice group this Monday at 1 to 3. Ask Salidra about that. And Carolyn, all right. And then there are some other things too. What's that? Membership. Oh, well, yes. Okay, well, as long as we have the membership drive being mentioned, let's just go to that before I talk about some other things.
Just want to encourage everyone to please register if you're planning on going to the Khenpo Rinpoche teachings. Please register. It's available online. It helps us plan to know how many seats and snacks and things like that to purchase. So, And I also want to thank all the people that have volunteered. This is a new thing with our registration, that have a place to check whether you are willing to volunteer for the event, and we had a nice response. And please know that this week we are going to be filling in a lot of spots, so you'll probably get a phone call this week. And one of the things you could volunteer to do is we're cleaning up the yard outside. You may have noticed toilets and various things scattering the yard. So we're going to try to, Adele is organizing this Tuesday at 9:30, anybody who wants to haul stuff and put it in the back of a trailer to either take it to Habitat, or if it's not good enough, we'll take it to the dump. And the same thing's going to happen on Thursday, but we're also looking for a truck for Thursday, and that will be around noon. So if you have any interest in that, come join us. Maybe we'll have pizza for lunch if you come.
And next.
So today is the second week of our community membership drive. And if all of you would take a look right toward the back, you'll see Sanjay's lovely calligraphy work and announcing our sustaining membership drive and the invitation to become a sustaining member. So we have currently 73 sustaining members, and when we get another 35, we will have 108, which we all know is a complete mala. So there are forms in the back, and there's a little slot you can put your donation forms in. Any amount is wonderful. It doesn't matter. It's more about becoming a member and creating a foundation from which we have a solid base that is reliable throughout the year. And I want to say it's also really about community. And I was thinking about that word community and what it meant, what it means. And I would imagine that most of us have had a moment when we've been touched by our community and what it means. And I was thinking about myself in a moment, and it's almost 2 years ago that my husband died. And I remember he died, and soon after that, it was a Sunday, and I was like, I just want to go to KCC. I just want to sit there. And I remember sitting there with my nose and my eyes, and the sense of just completely being in the right place. And I have reflected on that a lot lately, and the appreciation of this precious, precious, precious community that we have. I don't know, I invite you to reflect on those moments that you've had with relation to that. So I also want to let you know that there are 2 little offering bowls in the back on the table. One of them has 73 beads in it, and the other one has 35 beads in it. And when you become a sustaining member, please take a bead out of the one that has 35 and put it in the other one. And when we have all 108 beads in the other one, we're going to choose randomly someone to receive this beautiful complete mala. It's a crystal and garnet mala, as you'll see in the back. There's also one for men. You'll see the men's mala back there as well. So if you have any questions, please ask me.
Define sustaining.
Sustaining, thank you. Someone who agrees to contribute a donation on a monthly basis for 1 year, at least. And again, it can be $10, $20, $100, but you become part of the community in a different way, and a reliable resource for our growth.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything about Q&A sessions with Kemper Rinpoche? Nope, not now. a simple answer to a complicated question. But one thing I will do is I will remind people to think of questions. Think of questions. Think of what's coming up. If you have a practice cohort, whether it's death or dying or mind training or whatever it is, amongst yourselves, it's good to sort of gel your thinking, kind of make your thinking a little richer and more vivid, and come up with questions that really relate to your practice. Because we'll have Q&A opportunities during all of the teachings, and it's really good to have something kind of clarified in your mind, so that when Rinpoche says, "Oh, are there any questions?" you don't go, "Oh, I should have thought of something," because it takes a little while to really formulate something and have it become clear. And it's very. I've been doing this myself, and I can tell you the exercise is very interesting. I go, well, but if I actually lean into that spot, and then let things come, let pieces of my practice come, then eventually I go, "Oh yeah, now I remember. I've never clarified that, or that's something I don't know about. I'd like to." So it happens like that, and that's good. Even if you don't get a chance to ask your question of Rinpoche, it's still good to do that, to have some clarity in your mind. Just having the question sometimes allows you to unravel things to some degree yourself in fresh ways. So it's good. Without further ado, what else do you have?
I'll just say that's a very good point, and emphasizes how these visits are not, I mean, it's nice if we can enter into them not like watching TV, like, "Oh, entertain us," but to actually be an active partner in it, and just really engage and put some energy and thought and time, as well as our presence into it, and we will get a lot more out of it that way.
Thank you. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a tea break and come back, and then maybe during your break you can think about what your questions are, so we can give this a little trial run.